Welcome. Today we're going to be looking at an assignment where the primary goal is to kind of get a picture representation of data distribution using Excel and making uh, by the way of using a histogram. So what we have here are the tangent measurements that we took last week, like this. And before we get to the kind of the main uh, part of this assignment, we'll quickly go over just a couple of preliminary things. The first one just kind of being that you need to have in the file section and going under options, you need to make sure that you go to add-ins in the options window and we add analysis tool pack. So that means you select it, hit go, and then you'll check analysis toolpack again in the add-ins window here. All right, so we already have it. You won't need it, but what that does is that gives us this button over here, which normally isn't present. So let's look at the data itself. Here it is. Now, just as a kind of an example of what you can do, we can create a name for all that data and just refer to that name whenever we want to. It's called a variable name. So here I've selected all the data and I'm just going to call it data1. All right. And if you ever need to, if you want to edit it or delete it, you can go to the formulas tab and go to name manager. And here we see the data variable I just created. Okay. So, and this is from a previous file that I worked on. So don't worry about the print titles. You'd only have the data one here so far. All right. So close this off, and now let's we'll calculate the mean. We'll calculate the standard deviation. So go use average, and I'll call this. I'm going to use the name data1. Hit tab to fill it in, and enter. Do the same thing for standard deviation. We're using the population version, using data one again. Here, I'll actually use the cell reference just to prove to you we can use both. So go back up to the formula bar. Either way, here we have A2 colon A10. Okay. So now we're going to use the histogram function in the data wizard. So I've set up the bounds that we'll use. So we're going from 2.09 going up by tenths up to 2.89. And I want to place the output for it. I'm going to put it in G, put it in G2. All right, so let's go look at the data. Go to the data analysis, histogram. Right. Here our input is just our data set. Our bin range is where you select the upper bounds values. We're going to put the output inside this worksheet, and like I said, we'll put it in G2. Oops. Select the data again. All right. So this gives me categorized essentially the frequency, how the data was spread out according to our data classes that we have here in the upper bounds. So it reproduces the upper bounds values, but then it also, this is what it gives us, is the frequencies, is what it calculates. So for purposes of making the histogram look a little more presentable, I've created this region down here where I've input the actual, like not just the upper bounds but the lower bounds as well as text, and that's why I have the apostrophe here. So see, for each of these rows, right, there's an apostrophe, and I'm just literally labeling the data classes. So I'm going to take the data we have here, the histogram function gave us, copy it, and put it in that table. So now I'm going to go and insert column. All right, and there we go. So let's take a look at the formatting. Oops. I want to click on the one of the bars themselves and format the data series and take away the gap. And there we have it. So I'll name this. It took on the labeling from the frequency column, but we'll call this the measurement distribution. And there we go. So these are all the primary steps in the assignment. I do want the mean, I want the standard deviation, and here you get kind of a final graphical representation of how the data was spread out, how it was distributed. So that's it, and I'll see you in the next video.